You're watching the Season 2 Grand Finals match of the People's League between the defending Season 1 champion, 7th Legion, versus the Season 1 runner-up Hell Let Loose Elite, or HLLE. These two teams are no stranger to meeting on this stage. Last season saw 7th walk away from Season 1 crowned champions after a hard-fought 5-0 victory on Purple Heart Lane. But HLLE is hungry for payback and to earn tons of bragging rights as the ones to dethrone the 7th. For this match, I'm joined by Capguns on the call with me, and Iowa Harley working in the production side of things. To start, we had some audio issues, so we'll be joining in here just as the match is getting ready to kick off. Be sure to stick around for the ending, as it was intense of an ending as can be. I really hope you all enjoy this finals match, capping off an incredible Season 2 of the People's League. And, as we're approaching the end of another burn, we can only hope that the full match is going to be starting here in just a minute. But, as far as, strategies as you see changing from season to season, what do you think is really made the difference between these two teams, in this season too and repeating their success?
For both the teams, obviously they have great players, but it's just dominating, your gunfights and getting better at that. I believe, if you're good at your gunfights, and obviously tanking has a big part of it, but if you're good at your gunfights, you can obviously, shift the momentum in a match, especially if you, take ground and if you're losing ground as well, too. If you're not winning those gunfights, every team, TPL has to win them. And obviously that's the way you win, by winning gunfights. So, I think everybody in general just needs to, pay attention to those gunfights today. And, I think in overall throughout the whole entire season, they've definitely paid dividends, and both teams have gotten even better, I think, at gunfights in certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we are fortunate here. We ended up getting actually a match of Utah Beach here. Looks like the midpoint will be the chapel. So let's pop over to that strat sketch really quick and take a look at what we could come to expect. So the chapel, we have the 7th as the axis here, while HLLE will be playing the allies. And the biggest thing here is, as any player would know, is the allies have a pretty big disadvantage on this map with the back end being the beach. And if you're not able to keep pressure on the midpoint consistently, you're going to have a really, really difficult time in making any sort of effort to recapture midpoint. So what do you think here, Capguns?
Definitely HLLE needs to take Chapel as soon as possible. 7th's going to be coming in hard and fast, but I think, if the HLLE can get from the beach to the backside of Chapel and then just spread out from there a little bit and control the certain sectors and keep the 7s from pushing in, they might have a chance to, at least keep them at bay for a little while until they, reorganize, get their garrisons up, get their tanks up, and then obviously make a push to the 4th point.
Yeah, the Americans do have an advantage. They're a bit closer to the chapel here, so they can definitely get that pressure swung in their favor first. But you just know that this whole area is going to be drenched in artillery fire from the moment we kick off. And I know that both of these teams are going to be slinging the artillery from the very beginning, and that I'm interested to see how that'll play out with these two teams capturing. We are getting close to the end of the match warm up here, so to start, why don't we take a look in with Tactical Steve here. He's going to be probably on the flex duty for 7th, so kind of wherever he's needed most, you'll find him. And he's again one of the best shots out there, so definitely will be something to watch.
I don't know.
Yep, and definitely with these maps and these points actually right now, if you kind of look at the strat sketch a little bit, it is on an angle at the moment. So every point you basically have to push up either to the upper right side of the map or the lower left. So there's a lot of area in front and to the both north and south of each point that you're going to have to cover. So it's going to be really tough for both teams to cover all the sectors. So hopefully we can see a good sector control from both sides of the map, and hopefully we can see a duke out with their tanks, because I believe
Let's
tanks are going to
fucking
be a
go,
big part of
boys!
this. But it's going to
Oh
be
my god.
hard, especially with all the water around, because as you
Calm
know,
down.
driving a
It's okay.
truck or
Hit a little bump. We're
tank
good.
through
We're
these
good.
little waterways, it's kind of hard to get over them at certain
Go for
points.
it, Captain.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
distract.
absolutely.
Good.
The flanking opportunities with this map setup is you know you have a wealth of options. You could have the north, the south, all very viable. But I think that the main road will be the main route. Having played this map and this point in competitive matches before, that road to the south leading up north into the chapel here is such a critical point of controlling this. But I still think we'll see some activity up to the north, especially in those sheds up there. Red Zone Gary wouldn't surprise me at all. At least get a couple waves off. But
Oh,
Let's go white.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, as a team in general, you just have to plan for it. You have to plan for your next attack, and you have to plan for your, fallback potentially. So, I
We're
mean,
gonna take this
there's
out.
some placement
I
on
made
this
myself
map,
over, dude.
and there's a lot of areas that you can place them
What
between
do
the
you see?
hedgerows, and obviously, like you said, the
On your left.
sheds to the north,
If
and
they're a lot
obviously the
closer, play
buildings
for
to
the
the south of
recap. They're a lot
WN7.
closer.
There's tons of flanking
Like 50 meters
opportunities,
down that way.
but with it being kind of hedgerow country as well
I see
too, you
some
can
truck.
expect garrisons pretty much all around, depending on how many they put in the
There's one guy
attacking
right
zone.
here.
So it's going
yeah,
to be a good watch.
yeah. And Steve goes down there after pushing up just
Yep,
south, like
it's
we
still
mentioned.
moving.
Why don't we check in with Lambda here? He looks to be in the recon tank, the default for the seventh, pushing through the fields here and onto the point. Actually, it looks like he's actually all the way pushing their artillery already. So maybe to keep it a bit more relevant, let's check in with Burger Bridge, the tank gunner for HLLE. He looks to be a little bit more on the point, and is working a cap it here. Like we anticipated, cap guns. It looks like HLLE has gotten the edge here to start on the cap pressure, starting a little closer.
Yep, and it's good for them to get it. Obviously, like I said, it's important to establish your presence on the point, and then obviously establish your spawn points, and then obviously weed the enemy players out. So obviously
Mm-hmm.
HLLE is doing a great job of it now, but as you
Yeah.
can see, Burger's actually engaging a few. It looks like trucks or some tanks at the moment. So I mean, they're going to be very active, obviously, in this open push. And hopefully they can keep the midpoint, because it's going to be a tough round.
Yeah, so much of the start of these matches are what happens with the default recon and the default medium. No one thinks that they're gonna be in that the whole game long. No one really wants to be, but making the most of it and at least winning that initial tank engagement is almost a guaranteed cap for your team if you're able to do so. So looks like Berger is doing a great job just kind of keeping his tank alive. They got some repairs on them, so they're just looking out for that tank push, because I don't think that they were able to take out the 7th Panzer IV just yet.
Yep, I have not been able to see it as of yet, but and another thing too that I think most of us has been noticing lately in matches, comp matches, is the repair station. So I'm going to be interested to see how many repair stations each team might have up, and see how many AT guns they might have up as well too, because I know with the southern point at Drowned Fields, and then obviously with the top point at AA Battery, you can definitely put some AT guns up in some certain sight lines just to counteract their tanks. So it's going to be interesting to see, where they have everything placed once everybody gets everything set up.
Yeah, and it looks like Berger's doing a great job, just kind of like holding his ground here and holding this field. It looks like he actually might be aiming towards where Tactical Steve is. So why don't we check back in with Steve, who's looks like he's pushing a house that if I know him, he suspects an OP's there, and he intends to take it out. So let's check out what Steve is up to and see if he's able to make any progress.
Yeah, and as you know as well too, Caparzo, pushing up, I mean, obviously it's a slow. Some people play fast and aggressive. Some people play a little more conservative. And I think Steve's one of those conservative guys who, wants to make the most of his life, and obviously, at least eliminate as many guys as he possibly can, and spawn points as well too. So I mean, he's going to be very methodical and doing what he can to clear out guys before he pushes up.
Yeah. He's definitely a little bit more patient than maybe
More
someone
aiming
like
and
me when I'm playing.
guessing.
And it's a great philosophy, because in Hell Let Loose, it's one thing to say that you're going to get there quick and you're going to run and just take the path of that's most direct. But it's another thing to maximize each life, and you can't kill while you're in the spawn screen. So speaking of the spawn screen, we find Steve there. So maybe we'll go into Killa here, who is working the defense for HLLE and has spied a Panzer IV just in front of him. He's working to get his OP back up.
I'm going from behind.
I just lost my OP at AA battery.
Love tank mark 7.
Joe,
Yeah,
Joe,
Killa
it's on
obviously
AP,
is going to
please.
be a very efficient
ASAP.
person
I've
as
got P4
far as
behind me.
getting his OP up and in position, and
Stationary
getting these
mark
guys
on
in
Echo
position as well too to
Tank
counter
mark
these
is the
tanks.
medium.
You know, obviously,
Second OP.
playing against the 7th, you need to counter tanks right away, and just like any group as well too. I mean,
Down and pushing ravine.
tanks are
Down and
a
pushing
force
ravine.
factor on the field, and as long as you can keep that factor at bay, you should be able to at least establish a dominant presence on the battlefield.
Explosive armor behind you, mate.
If you want any hope of beating 7th, you definitely need to make sure that those tanks are dealt with. And it looks like Killa is doing his best to facilitate his squad's movements to take out these tanks, but he ends up going down as well. So maybe we check back in with Lambda, who's still in that recon. I had my eye on him here and there, and he was working on their arty to at least take that out to start. But now he is pushing out from behind HLLE's attack. I'm sure looking for that neutral line.
Yep, and obviously, like, having a very intelligent tank crew is obviously key in this instance, especially knowing where, you know, certain garrisons might be placed too. Obviously, you playing for a long time know exactly, you know, almost where every single garrison might be. So, I mean, having those guys roll around and at least observing where enemy pushes are so they can mark it on the map for their fellow infantry is going to be key for the 7th.
Yeah, and Lambda is taken out there. I mean, you're so vulnerable in those recons. So we could check back in with Killa, who's doing exactly what you mentioned. You know, you kind of know exactly where these garrisons are going to be, but you know, you need them regardless. So he's working up to build a little garrison network, spacing them almost perfectly 200 meters apart to really maximize their range. And he's working the north side and. You know, Capguns, you're a little newer to the Hell Let Loose game, but you'll get your first commentator's curse this game. I'm not worried about it.
Sweet.
Yeah. No, I'm
just
a little bit
taking
newer
out
to
three
the commentating thing, but
just stem the attack
obviously
a bit.
it's great to be here and, you know, see what these guys are able to do, and, you know, see obviously what you and everybody at TPL has been able to do as well too. It's been a great show.
Please.
Thank you. Yeah, it's you know, these teams are obviously established as the best teams in the league. They're in the finals against each other, and we're seeing just how efficient that they are about doing those little tasks on a routine basis. Maybe we check back in with Steve again too, who's working just straight pushing east into the point on the south side. So
Behind you, PG.
I know he's going to be methodical, as we said, but his squad is a little bit smaller, so they need to make sure that the ground that they take is held.
Yeah, and I think mostly for Hell Let Loose in the competitive scene has really changed and transitioned from the bigger 6-man squads to sometimes having more, you know, smaller squads like Steve having 3 people in his. I mean, to me, there's just certain advantages, obviously, that you have to a smaller squad and having multiple squads as well too, because you have a longer spread of OPs over a wider area, and especially if, you know, you're able to hold that area, you can have a lot of early detection warning systems as far as the OPs, just, you know, by having smaller squads. So I kind of like the strategy that the 7th has as far as going with the smaller squads here and there, but, you know, let's see if it pays out for them in the long run.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think you've seen become a little bit more standard for the teams in season 2 is smaller squads. It was certainly a thing in season 1, but now it's more of that meta that's been established, and teams are using it. I mean, more OPs and more support and more AT. It's just going to make your team more effective in every facet. So you're to see that evolution and logical conclusions happening. It's great, evolution for the league.
Definitely. And as of right now, we can switch over to Killa at the moment. Killa actually just got taken out, but he's been really working as far as keeping, the 7th at bay, pushing his sector, and the same thing with Steve at the moment. I mean, both of these guys are just at least holding the sectors and pushing up slowly. Steve a little more slower at the moment than Killa, but it's definitely a good show and a good show of marksmanship from these guys as well too so far.
Yeah, I was just about to say we've kind of like settled into that, like 15 minutes into the match. The teams have kind of established themselves. No one's. It was always going to be hard to make that quick, like 4th point push that you might see in a match where the points are more evenly. It's not so up down. So I don't think that was much of a threat here. But now these two teams are settling in. The HLLE is building up their garrisons. They're spreading their infantry and OPs out, and 7th is starting to probe and see which one of these flanks is going to be most effective for them. But I think it's going to take a tank, especially in some of these open fields to the west of Chapel, to really break into the point and make a concerted push.
Hey,
Definitely, and anybody who has played in a competitive match, everybody obviously wants to 5-0 the other team. I mean, obviously it'd be nice to do that, but with these two teams in this meat grinder of a match, it's going to be a slow-paced match. I mean, they're both going to take their time and plan out their attacks from multiple angles from both of the points. It looks like as of right now, HLLE's kind of sitting back from pushing too far up because they just want to hold everything in front of them, which I think is a good strategy. But obviously, as there's so many flanking routes on Chapel. It's going to be really hard for them to keep everything in front of them when they're going to get pushed from multiple angles.
Yeah, and we're seeing just that. Steve is pushing in from the straight west, and then we have the 7th kind of all pushing from different angles at the same time, and it's kind of on the edge of capping here. 7th made a good couple, a little bit of cap progress, but they were stalled out just then. We'll see if they could kind of take advantage of the effect that losing the objective has on teams, where you kind of like suck them up from where the angles that they're holding and force them to kind of compress into the point.
Yep. Definitely, and obviously HLLE is doing a good job keeping them at bay because they already countered the attacking force from the 7th. So Steve, like I said, he's working his way throughout the whole thing, but let's see if he moves around and tries to get a sneaky flank behind him and possibly run into a garrison or two.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much in the ways of taking out garrisons from these teams yet, so it's just like a man-on-man type of battle. Although Steve is doing an amazing job here and clears 2 and spies the OP. So that takes out a little bit of HLLE's presence, but at the same time, we are seeing HLLE put a bit of pressure onto 7's objective, which is Drowned Fields there in the south. So we'll see if that effect of getting contested pulls back any of these 7th guys as Steve ends up dying up there. So what do you think? We check out Killa again, who's just working the defense?
Yeah, and definitely like anybody knows as well too. I mean, Steve obviously being one of those roaming guys, but as far as Killa, he's on defense, and as a team player, you have to trust in your defense and trust that everybody's going to do their jobs just as much as the attacking squad leaders are going to do their jobs. But Killa seems to be doing a great job of it right now. Definitely clearing out enemy presence and pushes, and definitely spots a tank at the moment.
Looks like he has his AT on that tank, and he is only has 2 into him, so the Panther will need one more. We're also seeing a Lux, which is actually Lambda, so why don't we switch over to Lambda really quick and see him. He's trying to help out his armor here, his Panther.
Yeah, and probably one of the most annoying tanks, in my opinion, is going to be the Lux, and obviously, as well, too, if you hear that thing near you, it's a priority, at least for me and my squad, to take it out, because you can wreck some havoc on the infantry units, sitting on top of a point.
Yeah, and I think we might actually have a little bit of audio issues with Lambda's feed here.
Oh, he just got an outpost. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, he was able to take out an outpost there. So, I mean, he's definitely making it effective. I don't know if he was able to defend his Panther there. It was going to be tough. I think the engine might have been taken out on that Panther.
Definitely. Yeah, it seems at the moment, judging by some of the other guys' screens, that, HLLE is doing a great job of at least keeping the 7th at bay. But, I believe they need to at least start putting a little bit pressure on the next point, because it looks like at the moment that they're going to be losing the point soon if the 7th keeps on pushing up.
Yeah, not helping. Sometimes you need a little offense to help out your defense, and Lambda's having some troubles here. He's under quite a bit of AT fire. I think what you said rung true. You hear that cannon going off, and you're just like, all right, let me find it, let me take it out. A lot of ATs are immediately looking for you. You're an easy target, even for the bazooka. So I think that they're finding that out right now, but they are getting some pressure. They're helping their team kind of stay on the edge of capturing. But from what I am seeing, though, on HLLE's maps, is that there's not a ton of pressure coming into Drowned Fields at all, really. They don't even have a garrison set up down south to give them a leg in, maybe an outpost over there. But really, they're kind of lacking on any sort of way to attack Drowned Fields, which is going to be gonna spell their destruction if they're not able to quickly get something like that.
Definitely. And obviously Drowned Fields, you can pretty much at least keep anybody who's attacking in front of the point to the east hand side. But if you're approaching, from the northeast, some of these teams are just going to walk right behind you, depending obviously, how well they walk behind you. But it is an open field, pretty much to the northeast, northwest side of it as well too. So MG can certainly, keep that area at bay. Mm-hmm. But obviously, you need to put some pressure on top of Drowned Fields at the moment, because
sorry to interrupt there, Captain. Just really quick. Yep. I want to swap over to Steve really quick. He's pushing a what I think he suspects is a garrison, which is just to the on the other side of the neutral line from where the point is, and I think he just sees them spawning here, and this is going to be huge if he's able to kind of take them out as they push onto the point. They might have lost their garrison.
Definitely. And, some teams do it differently. Obviously, they keep garrisons on point, or they keep them, just off point. But Steve definitely is mowing some people down at the moment, and, looking to hold that position while his team gets in position, and then hopefully advance onto the enemy garrisons, hopefully in front of them.
Yep, they are almost capped here in the middle with just about 22 minutes having elapsed in the match. So if they're able to cap here, and as I say that, I'm the commentator's curse. Probably a huge spawn wave for HLLE to get the pressure off for a second, but 7th is able to maybe capture, and they get it. They got it. They got the midpoint back. We are now 23 minutes into the match. 7th has flipped the midpoint back into their control, or into their control for the first time. And I was able to hear over comms there that they're just trying to park up and stay for a minute while they build their defenses up.
And actually, if I flip over to either Burger or Lambda, they're actually battling each other at the moment. And Lambda just took out Burger.
In the Panzer II, that's definitely not typically a anti-tank type of tank, but they're able to make it work here. Looks like there's a recon as well.
There's a Greyhound right behind the Lux.
This is, as we said, these are Hell Let Loose's best players on console. No one is above this type of tank duel.
Yeah, I mean, you got to use everything at your disposal. I mean, as long as it has a gun, it'll kill people. So, I mean, any type of gun that you have, use it to the best advantage you have until it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But yep, 7th able to recapture the or to capture the midpoint here. They're looking to consolidate their control over the point. Let's go back over to Steve and let's see what he's up to. He looks like he's just pushing down to that radar dish and just pushing north and trying to clear a little bit of the line.
I can't put one on point.
For
I did.
HLLE's push back onto the point.
Go delete it, dude. I need
Yep,
to
and the
go.
7th, obviously are aware
He
that
deleted
with
the
the next
other
point being AA battery, and then the last point, being red roof house, you have to think about where you're going to place your next garrisons for the next push as well too. It works for any team, obviously. Once you're pushing certain points, you just got to plan for that, attack and counterattack for the next point, or to hold certain points as well too.
Yeah, and that counter push is such a big part of that influx moment where one team captures and is the other squad leaders able to get their outposts up and be able to resume that push on the point, or do they get caught maybe on the spawn screen and now their whole squad is out of the fight for a prolonged period. So both these teams are excellent, so those little moments of the games really end up mattering a lot.
I'll build a Gary first.
Definitely, and garrison placement here is going to be really critical as well for HLLE, and obviously snuffing out the 7's fort garrisons once they get them established. It's just going to be, like I said, it's going to be a meat grinder for hopefully the next hour or so.
And we'll see if we have a similar sort of moment where these teams settle in and are able to kind of establish their territory as Steve places a garrison in another spot that I think we all expect to see a garrison, but it's obvious for a reason. It's a good spot. It's got some cover, and it's going to alert anyone of a push to the south there.
Definitely. Yeah, I use that spot a lot too, but as the game progresses, you obviously want to not keep garrisons in the same spot, depending on where they are. But any veteran on any team, especially like 7th and HLLE, they definitely know that you can't keep putting garrisons in the same exact position, otherwise they're just going to get taken out multiple times.
Yeah, and maybe now is a good time to quickly take a look at the strat sketch and kind of look at something that I've been seeing with the map thus far. And right now it looks like HLE is mostly kind of stuck in the north side defending AA battery. I don't see them with a ton of garrisons or spawns here. They have a couple of recon squads, I believe, just down south here, probably trying to build up something to the north. But for the most part, they're kind of on the back foot right now as they kind of reconsolidate and make sure that there's not a quick push prepared into AA. I think and I'm sure Cav Guns, like at this point of the game, the team that takes the strong point first is able to kind of get comfortable, and with recon and these sorts of like small squads by 7th that might have gotten into AA battery and given them some trouble. So I definitely am interested to see like if HLLE is able to kind of consolidate and get those spawns up to build a push and back into the point.
Definitely, and as you said too, I mean, once the 7th established Chapel, I mean, I think personally it's easier to defend Chapel as the Germans than it is the Americans, just because with Americans, if you look on the map, you have such a frontal push that you can get pushed from the Germans. It's just hard to keep track of everything. But with 7th establishing that they have Chapel now, I believe that they're going to be able to hold it for at least a good bit of time. I mean, it's going to take a very strong push from the south or from the east, from HLLE to push into Chapel.
And what we've seen like last week in against Merc is when there was a point on the edge here, 7th will like to kind of build up their garrison network, like almost like a shape charge, where they kind of build a cone around it, and then it'll allow them to push in from multiple different angles and really kind of press them into the edges of the map. And you'll see their armor be used critically in maneuvers like that. So as we look ahead, I'm interested to see if we see something like that play out. So I guess we can go back here to Steve, who's again being patient and picking off enemy infantry where he can.
definitely. And you can see now he's on the far east side, I believe it is, of the point right now. Kind of closer towards the edge of the beach, but he's pushing in right now slowly, and obviously he can see guys straight ahead of him at that farmhouse, and both of us know that that farmhouse is probably a prime spot for a garrison, or at least a few OPs as well. So I mean, he's doing what he can to at least eliminate the threat right in front of him, so that way he can push up with the squad.
There's more.
Yeah, and to be like a force multiplier where it's just a couple guys over here, but it's really preventing HLLE from pushing out of that area and out into, a relevant combat space. They're kind of bottling them up and not really using a lot of manpower to do it. So that's like textbook competitive Hell Let Loose. You want to make a little guy seem like a lot, and if everyone's doing that, then you can make 50 guys feel like 100.
There's one guy behind his house.
Doing that effectively, you're going to be in a good spot.
Definitely. Like you said, I mean, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, today as well too. If you're winning your gunfights, I mean, like you said, you can make 50 guys feel like 100. As long as you're dropping guys, I mean, you just create more problems for the enemy team. Now, obviously, they can respawn and redeploy at their OPs or garrisons, but, depending on how they're structured, I mean, if your OP gets taken out, then you have to spawn at a garrison, which takes even longer, which means you're not on the battlefield for that long, supporting your team.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of these guys like get into engagement with each other, and it's just a slugfest between them. We just saw Burger Bridge here, who is in the looks like he is in heavy, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it looks like a 76 millimeter gun. So he's in the heavy 76, and he took out a recon tank and is just trying to establish himself onto the point and help his infantry out, because HLLE really needs some help getting some progress here. These small squads by the 7th and the infantry is really starting to kind of compress them into that corner of the map.
Definitely, and obviously where they're at with AA, Hell Let Loose or HLLE has definitely good sight lines from AA battery looking towards the WN4 point, where I think that the 7th are trying to establish an attacking spawn wave, like you said. But it's definitely like it has its sight lines, and obviously Burger's definitely doing what he can to at least keep the enemy in front of him, so that way his guys can move up and then clear out anybody who's trying to push up from that direction.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of sticking with his infantry. Meanwhile, we see if we swap over to Lambda here. Lambda's in the Panzer II still, I believe, and he's getting hit with a lot of infantry around him as he pushes into the point here. So it's I'm interested to see why they went in the Panzer II after the game, but maybe they just were trying to get onto the point and support that push into the objective that helped them recapture.
Yeah, and I believe he's still in the same one when he was battling Burger earlier too. So, obviously it shows you that a good set of tankers and good set of tank crews, working together can stay alive for a long time, even like a lighter tank, just like the Panzer II.
And he is just kind of staying local to the midpoint now, just kind of, I guess, roaming and helping each infantry as they get into an engagement. We're seeing Burger is also kind of doing a similar thing on the defensive point, but if we join him back in with Steve, he's doing more of what we looked at earlier, on the beach, kind of preventing any sort of big push off the beach and any sort of wide flank that HLLE might try to do here.
Definitely, and as of right now, this is kind of what I think I would be doing as well too if I was in Steve's position. It's kind of combing their, I like to say, their double blue line, and just trying to see what you can find. Obviously, you can look for garrisons that are in the zone that take longer to take out, but Steve's obviously doing what he can to get in position, take out as many enemies as you can, and then just keep moving that OP forward for a squad, which is very helpful for a squad member if you're in it. As long as your squad lead is continuously moving up the OP and you guys are continuously taking ground, it just it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I always love it when I see that OP get moved and you're in that one further spawn over, and Steve gets taken out there. But I think that he probably believes that there's an outpost there. It certainly looks like it. 3 guys just spawned out in front of him. So we can go back in with Killa now, who is doing some work, building some garrisons, and trying to keep that looks like just like the west side of the point clear. It's a big open field, and you know that's I'm sorry about that, Killa.
Who's with us?
Taken out there. It's a pretty open field, so it's going to be tough. And Steve goes down at the same time, so we can get back into some tank gameplay. Burger Bridge is, you know, like I mentioned, he's on the defensive point, kind of working the north side where those factories are, and he's getting rocket
he just got a rocket. Yep.
These ATs are really just insane, and I think that's a tank, actually.
And I don't know about you, but for me at least, Caparzo, like the tanking aspect and the rocket sniping of tanks have gotten a lot better over the season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I never realized, and this is a little bit of a new. And Seven's heavy tank was able to take out Burger there, but we'll keep it with the tank gameplay and go over to Lambda, who's in the French connection tank, as they call it, all French crewmen. So they're if their audio issues were sorted, they're all speaking French to each other. So it's not just you.
Dude. Holy shit.
And they get taken out.
a lot of tank destruction there. All right, we'll go back to Steve then. He's still working on that OP that he saw earlier. He's relentless. He's not going to let them get away. But yeah, to answer what you were saying earlier, Capguns, you're 100% right. With the rocket aspect of the game, it was maybe a new move on my part, but I never realized how powerful that the Panzerschreck was in comparison to the bazooka. Those start a match moments where you have the Panzerschreck and the other team's medium is just, you know, you can take it out from, feels like almost any angle. So that's a huge advantage as Steve takes the OP.
Definitely. And anybody knows too, I think you mentioned it as well too, rocket sniping artillery. Obviously that's been a big uptake lately, and I believe these two clans, are pretty good at it, obviously, if not some of the best at it. But if you get in position and obviously artillery's pounding your team, I mean, it's good to have a good AT guy who can just set up in a certain position and just lob rockets at the artillery.
Absolutely, and Steve is doing his best over there, but is taking out another spawn, it looks like, on that double blue line, as you put it earlier, Capguns. I think that's a big part of what Steve's squad is trying to do, and take away HLLE's ability to push from that double blue line into the point. And Steve is flexing back to the point here as he saw the OP, the Gary flash. So looks like he's using that flex roll nature to prevent HLLE from starting anything before it's too late.
Definitely, and I'm a big map person as well too, especially if I have a little downtime. I consistently check my map all the time when I'm playing these games, and it goes back to what I said earlier about situational awareness. Definitely arriving in the right place at the right time when the team needs it is just so crucial for a team to succeed.
In the church on Chapel.
Yeah, you need to be able to understand that, when it's best to also redeploy and reposition yourself that way. Each moment in this game is so critical that wasting time that isn't necessary to go from one place to the other when you could just redeploy there is can be the difference. You see these garrisons get locked out maybe when you should have just spawned there, and now you're stuck running and the other team is out, on your strong point looking out now, and it just makes it way more difficult. So I think Steve is aware of that now and is trying to stay on the point to where they're not going to have the issue of HLLE breaking in. And looking at the map here, there is some tanks pushing up
They're
for
going from the
7-2,
north.
which are
Enemy
definitely
coming
going
from
to
the
help
north
them.
of Chapel.
Yeah,
Definitely, and obviously, everybody says it's a team game, and it holds true as well too. I mean, like Steve, like you mentioned, Steve's falling back and taking care of either a potential push from an HLLE squad or from HLLE's recon. And obviously he's doing a great job clearing it out with especially looking at all these markers that he has in front of his screen. He's going to be pushing that three-story building right in front of him. So hopefully he at least finds a good OP or garrison or something.
Artillery's fucking us up right now.
Yeah, it's, I think we might see a showdown here between him and Killa's squad here. They're both kind of pushing this north side, and obviously that's going to be where you're going to see most of these guys. And Steve holding this angle.
That eye marker's accurate for the 76.
Get spot from another side. So let's check in with Killa, who's also up there in the north, trying to control those factories. I'm sure they're very aware that 7th has a garrison up there, and is looking to establish themselves a bit.
Yep, man. He obviously just went down, but yeah, I mean, he's just doing what he can to keep the enemy at least in front of him at that junction in the road, right to the north side of WN4. And that's a big point, at least to establish a garrison presence for the 7th. So Killa's going to do what he can to at least hold them at that road structure in those smaller buildings right in front of that road, just so that way they can't get any flanking to the north.
And Lambda here is in the Panther, and is pushing that north side on the factories. And if I'm sure what he's doing is waiting for that infantry to spawn. They have a repair station built for him up there. He can really just kind of go back and forth and put pressure on them and back up and repair, and really make it hard for HLLE to feel comfortable onto the point.
Definitely, and this is part of the things that a lot of clans try to do is have the tanks push up with infantry. It's obviously a force factor having the tank, like I mentioned before, but definitely having infantry support makes you as a tanker feel a hell of a lot better, especially when you are pushing up, so that way squad leads can potentially spot tanks for you right in front of you, so you can get a nice angle or something on them. And hopefully Lambda looks like he has a ping going on a tank right now, but let's see what he takes. He might be firing, I don't think, at Burger.
No, Burger is still coming off the beach here, but yeah, he does have a tank ping. Let's see if he trusts his pings. He's able to even shoot through that bush. As we know, it doesn't always work out the way you think it is in HLLE. And
he's got an angle, I
think
believe.
it is Burger.
No, it's not. I think Burger, might be further to the south.
He hits off of an invisible wall here, Lambda.
It's a little tough too when you're trying to lob rounds in and you're hitting an invisible wall.
No. Yeah. Lambda staying vigilant, keeping his back safe. These infantry are just so good. It's very difficult to deal with AT at this level. It's your biggest threat, really, as a tank.
Yeah, definitely in this area as well, too. I mean, if you have an enemy group coming from the sheds in WN4, obviously if there's a tank ping on Lambda right now, I would be, as an infantryman, pushing up just to try to get that Panther off the map.
And they're just creeping in first gear, trying to get an angle on this. I believe it was a 76. Taking that out would be huge for their push. Spies an AT gun.
He's doing a good job of using this house in front of him as cover. Obviously not right there, but somebody's got an angle on him at the moment.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of threats at the same time, and they must have gotten satcheled. Oh, wow. Like we said, those ATs are so good. Those engineers are always going to be on top of you. That's a Panther down for the 7th. We can check in with Steve now again, who's still working that same area that we were talking about earlier.
Smelling the carry here.
And he spies the garrison.
Yep. See, and this is what, at least I try to do as well too, as an attacking SL is, take out the enemy's spawn points behind them and then work your way up. Try to clear them out. Obviously, if they can't spawn, it helps you and it helps your team.
Hey, everybody get a machine gunner in your squad and
Yeah, and
start
that
spraying
was
the
still
fucking
on
Everybody get a
the
machine gunner.
active sectors of the map, so it wasn't a long one. Was a quick takedown for Steve, but still it was takes out some of that enemy presence to the southeast of the point, but still looks like a majority of these forces are into that northwest area, and that we were seeing those tanks battle over. So while Lambda and them get back in their tank and retool here, we'll stay with Steve as he continues to push now back towards the
north side. Like they're all just.
Yeah, and it looks like HLLE at the moment is putting a little bit pressure from the south side of Chapel at the moment. So I don't know if they got a sneaky garrison up or a sneaky couple of OPs to the south of Chapel, but Steve's doing what he can to help clear it out.
Yeah, we could maybe check back in with
that is a radar, Gary.
Killy. Yep, looks like we're back with him, and building a garrison in the north. Maybe not the most effective garrison as far as like maintaining good pressure spawns, but a critical one to maintain map awareness and understand if the 7th they're going to push on the map's edge there.
I find it.
Definitely. I mean, obviously you have 8 garrisons for a reason. Most of them kind of are going to be like a beacon system for your team. So definitely knowing where the enemy push is, is going to be crucial for both sides. And obviously Killa is finding out now that, once he took out that OP, that there's going to be a few more 7th guys waiting for him.
Yep, they're definitely waiting at that point to take out those infantry, and we can rejoin Steve, who's going back up to the north there through the cattle sheds, and I'm sure if he's able to look that way, he'll spy that garrison and try to get some ATs on it. But it looks like maybe he's more concerned about just south of him, pushing HLLE pushing from the north to the south on the point. But like you said, I think really the more critical push is going to be to the south, and Steve makes me look wrong immediately by seeing 2.
Yeah, and we're halfway, I believe, at the match at the moment, and I mean these two have just been dueling it out, trying to get position on one another, and obviously if Steve, you can tell he just went down a little bit ago, and now we're having Killa push up to that road junction to at least keep the 7th attacking at bay.
And I think that's a point too where there's such a no man's land between these 2 points, between this cattle sheds and between that next set of barbed wire, that if you're able to kind of keep them on the other side of it, you're going to have a real easy time, as compared to where if you let a couple slip through, especially a squad leader gets a sneaky OP up and you get some infantry that are able to pressure you from inside the point, it's going to really open up the floodgates to the rest of the 7th or the rest of whatever offensive team to push into the point.
Definitely. And, like I mentioned earlier, AA battery, it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of sight lines looking to the west. So I believe, HLLE is doing a good job of, like I said, keeping them at bay and keeping certain attacks and positions suppressed. So they're doing a great job, at the moment.
Kill is really making some great progress for his squad into the point here. And, before the match, when I was talking to him about kind of what he was going to be doing for the match and like his role in the match plan, he said that he was just going to be playing this red-blue line defense. And I think we're seeing that played textbook, just barely maybe a half a square into the enemy sector, pushing north and south along it, looking for those garrisons, looking for those OPs, and each one that you're taking is taking people out of the relevant sector. And he sees here the guy took out his garrison that he just placed a bit earlier, at least some supplies, and he's going to try to keep them at bay.
Direct west of us.
Yeah. Definitely. Yep. And like I said, it's still a grudge match between them, because obviously, as we just saw, he got killed from the roadside. So they're going to do what they can to keep pushing up and, holding that road. And obviously, if they can move up and establish dominance on that road and, cattle sheds as well, too, on WN4, it's just going to help them out in the long run, possibly taking Chapel back as well.
Yeah, I think it's gonna take probably like an airhead bombing run kind of combination to really lodge these guys loose. And as we're saying that, someone mentions airhead on their comms, so we might be seeing that. But just for those who might not be aware, the airhead bombing run is when a commander will drop an airhead and time it so where the bombing run is going on the airhead as it's getting ready to deploy or as it's landing rather. And this helps, one, clear a room for the spawners on that airhead, and two, prevent any enemies from taking it out, that might be waiting for it to land. So I think that's a really powerful tactic at this level of the game, and I've seen it executed beautifully by HLLE on numerous occasions.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a very potent strategy, but with these two teams, they should be looking up in the air for that and kind of expecting it. Obviously, if I hear a plane go over, I'm always looking up as a squad lead, just trying to call things out for backline defense, kind of like how Kill is doing. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to at least spot in the general direction, where that airhead's coming in, so that way you can quickly move forces over there to counteract any push that they have coming from it.
Yeah, and looks like Burger's having a little bit of a collision with his friendly 76 here, but two tanks by HLLE working together to try to kind of keep each other clear. I think they're having some trouble with the ATs, especially. I mean, they're pretty able. They were handling the tanks pretty well, but like we saw last week in Merc versus 7th, the amount of ATs at this level that are just seem to be everywhere at once is really impressive. And as a tanker, that's your worst nightmare.
Definitely. Like you mentioned earlier as well, too, AT guys can be really sneaky with, either getting behind a tank with a rocket or satchel as well, too. So these guys are doing a good job, keeping each other protected, keeping the enemy at a distance a little bit, and doing what they can to spread out and cause some havoc to the 7th guys.
Yeah, and now we're kind of approaching the that same period of the match where it's been about 15 minutes since 7th has captured the midpoint, and they've kind of settled in. HLLE is built up their defense pretty well. I don't think that they're in danger of losing the point at any time soon. And similarly, 7th has done a good job of building up the point and kind of keeping HLLE at bay. So these two teams are definitely settled in now. And I think it just becomes that small game again of squad versus squad and OP versus OP, and who can win those small engagements, because those are all going to add up to the next big change of possession of a point if anyone goes ahead and does that.
Definitely. Now, at what minute mark would you be a little more aggressive if you were HLLE?
I think I see 20 minutes on the clock, and I start thinking okay, we need something to start happening now. We don't need to capture right now, but we need to have something on the map, where it's okay, maybe there's a locked out red zone garrison where there's one squad's OP that's nearby, and you say, okay, that squad really needs to work to clear that red zone garrison and at least get another 2 squad leaders in there to get their OPs in and try to make something start to materialize. And then you talk about, okay, maybe an airhead onto those squads so that they can work to defend it and get some more people in. But I mean, at that point, the other team is probably thinking the same thing. Let's consolidate. Let's be a little less aggressive. Let's keep them honest, but let's not be doing these bigger pushes. Let's maybe take one of our tanks and just park it on the point. Those sorts of things. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, for me, like I said, you got to see where you're at the time of when you're all right, let's let's put some gas in there and start revving it up a little bit more. I believe, if you can get a successful airhead or at least a successful red zone garrison, maybe you say, hey, let's commit 3/4 of our troops to that push. And obviously, depending on how the 7th have everything set up as far as blue or defensive is in the blue, they might not have enough guys to counter an attack if HLLE gets a sneaky red zone garrison up.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, at this level, red zone garrisons are so difficult, and it's really just more about getting those couple of people in so that you can get an OP up and then work from there. These teams are so good at keeping those roamers running around, and even if they don't know where your garrison is, they're probably within 100 meters of it, so it's it's not active for you. So I think having them be there and then using them opportunistically is really the best case scenario. But obviously you could always catch a team sleeping and have more luck. And Steve is going on a tear here right at that house that you were mentioning earlier, where it's common to see a garrison or OP, and he's certainly found one.
Yep, and he's making headway at the moment too. I mean, it's just establishing certain angles on them, and obviously taking away certain advantages that they have. So hopefully we can see him either push up straight into the point or push up more towards the double blue line, as I like to call it, and see if he can hunt some more garrisons down.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough battle there for Steve. I mean, it's a target-rich environment. He actually takes a shot at a teammate there. He's definitely expecting to see a lot of enemies over there. So, Killa is over here, ends up dying to the north, but he's still working that north side very, very hard. And similarly, we're seeing Steve work that same double blue line sort of area and kind of cutting off any sort of reinforcements. I think what he's kind of waiting for is maybe a bombing run to take out their garrison on the point, and then he's in a perfect position to kind of prevent any sort of reinforcements from coming. But just catching the glimpses of the maps when I can, it does look like 7th is struggling to mount any sort of real attack, even from that north side.
Yeah, and they might be comfortable just holding Chapel. I mean, sometimes, like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint, in these games. And the 7th are definitely showing it right now. They're definitely doing what they can to try to get some attacking presence, on HLLE, but it looks like that they're just, kind of coasting along, trying to just at least keep the fight in front of them.
Yeah, and a little bit of cap pressure there by HLLE on the point. It doesn't really look like a ton of infantry, but it's enough to put the seed of doubt into 7th head. Obviously, they don't know how many infantry they are. Maybe they missed an airhead or something like that, they could be thinking. But just a couple infantry by HLLE starting to push in from the southeast of the point. And I think Killa is going to be able to make a little bit more progress here now that some of 7's forces are being pushed back into the point.
Definitely. And, we talked about it earlier, too. Taking these sheds kind of in this road here right by WN4 is pretty critical, especially if you're going to mount an attack on the north side of Chapel. So hopefully we can see them, clear a little bit more of the 7th forces out, and then see if they either get, a garrison or a few OPs up in these barns, and then try to make an attacking push from the north side of Chapel.
Yeah, I think we're seeing Cap Guns really taking advantage here, and as we switched to him, I saw him take out a garrison as well. So, he's using he was using a bit of the advantage that was afforded to him by the team in making those garrison and the outpost hot on the point, and was able to take out a couple OPs and a garrison up to the north there. So if he's able to kind of get his squad up there and recognize that they might be able to establish a bit more of a foothold up there, it might again force 7th to push up to the north, and then create a war on two fronts for the 7th to fight.
Sure. And then if we can switch over here to Lambda, it seems like he's on the it looks like he's on the southeast side of the point, or the southwest side of the point, kind of just holding a back line defense at the moment.
Yeah, Lambda is going to be content here to just kind of hold this field. And looking back to some matches that my clan had over the season, this area here on Chapel is such a big area for tanks just to dominate. If you have a good 76, or if you have a good heavy tank, and you're able to just kind of stay in the middle of those fields and it looks like there's getting up a repair station for him as well. It's going to be very hard to dislodge him, even as a medium. you know, and
Attention, si tu recules, je pense qu'il peut nous voir.
really
d'ici, là.
put their influence into the sector.
Non, recule
Definitely,
pas. Je pense qu'il peut
definitely.
nous voir,
And
si tu peux nous
obviously
voir, s'il te plaît.
for the 7th, they're going to want to try to hold, the southeast side of Chapel at the moment, where I think most of the attacks from any competitive clan really come from. Obviously, like we mentioned, Killa might be trying to get something towards the north by WN4, but definitely, holding that southern edge of Chapel is just going to be so crucial for the 7th to keep, the hold on the Chapel.
Yeah, that southern push is, what I thought of immediately as going to be the more effective way of getting in, but it's so hard because they're so far from their point there, and to keep that up with just like your attackers and flex squads is going to be difficult. So we're seeing most of the push from HLLE happen to the north, and I don't know how they're definitely sucking up 7th up there, so it's forcing them to kind of fight there, and I think HLLE is getting a couple outposts to the south, but it's definitely at this point evolved into the long game for both teams. And I think everyone's thinking another 30 minutes of this match rather than making something happen and maybe ending it a little earlier in a 5-0.
Now, if you were the 7th, how much would you commit to either trying to get the 4th point or just keeping the 3rd point as is?
I think, I mentioned a bit earlier, but it's just really about more keeping them honest, to me, at least. It's, you don't want them to think that, the other team is kind of turtling up now. And maybe you do that with 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left, but I think with 30 minutes left, that would be a big mistake. We're talking about, we both played offensive and defensive game modes a ton. You can't get conservative with 20, 30 minutes left. You're never going to be able to hold the point, even with great armor, for that amount of time against a competent team. So I think that you do enough to make them worry that they need to defend, but not so much that you're selling out for that 4-1. You get the championship regardless of the score here.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I always stress trying to keep some sort of presence on the enemy's point, obviously, and pushing in. Any little help from your offense helps your defense tremendously, and we're seeing that from both sides, actually. Steve having to fall back and deal with some of the HLLE guys, and then Killa trying to at least take out some of their 7s attacking on that road, and then he's trying to get pressure up there as well too. So that's going to force hopefully Steve to flex to that position to counteract that attack coming.
Yeah, and once Steve gets back in here, I think we could rejoin him because I think he's identified where there's another spawn. He's pushing that radar kind of array, artillery. I'm not sure exactly what the point is. I believe it is actually Hill 5, right? You're correct. Pushing there and kind of keeping them at bay to the south. I think that's also preventing them from really getting any sort of garrison on that southern side.
They're gonna overextend here a bit.
Definitely, and it's really hard too to push from Hill 5 to Chapel unless you have tank support. And obviously, a good chunk of infantry protecting that tank as well too. As you can see here, Steve's just dealing with infantry at the moment, and actually gets taken out. But
we could swap to Lambda really quick. He's in a tank battle, I believe.
But it's really hard just in general to take Chapel from the front side of Hill 5.
76 destroyed?
Oh.
Yep, that was Berger actually in the 76. Lambda with a great shot by his tank through the smoke, relying on his pings, and now he's supporting his infantry back over here. It does look like, though, Hell Let Loose Elite has some pressure on the Chapel. They are getting about a quarter cap progress here now, and Steve and a lot of the 7th guys are turning back towards the Chapel to try to get it flipped back into their favor, but it's on the razor's edge here as Hell Let Loose Elite is pushing in from looks to be the north of the point through a barrage of smoke artillery.
Yeah, and you kind of called it as well too. Almost around the 20-minute mark. We're here at like 27 minutes. HLLE is trying to push in and get this point. Obviously, hopefully, if they take it, reestablish defending Chapel. But obviously, Seven's doing a good job at counteracting their push.
Yeah, and both these teams know what went into capturing this point both times. You know, they held this lead off the bat, and then Seventh capturing it back, and Killa here spies the Panzer IV, which is actually Lambda pushing back down south towards the point. I'm sure Lambda's more concerned right now about getting back onto the point, recognizing him as unable to do really anything as squad leader, but his AT is behind him. Lambda jumps out. Killa is unaware that Lambda jumped out, and Lambda putting some fire down on the AT.
What a good exchange.
He goes down, and Lambda's taken out by Killa. And the tank goes down. Incredible. What a play there by Killa, pointing out the tank, getting the AT over there. Lambda trying to deal with the AT, not realizing Killa is right over there, and then Killa turning around to save his AT. Great work there by both of them, by everyone there.
Definitely, and you know this map definitely has some spots where infantry can, sneak in, like these certain hedgerows that you have. You have smaller chunks here and there throughout the map, but definitely certain areas where infantry can hide, wait for a tank maybe to pass, and then spring onto the tank and try to take it out.
Yeah, I mean these two teams, they did trade their tanks there. Lambda having taken out Burger's crew. But I think we're seeing Steve trying to play a little closer to the point and not so much on that double blue line anymore, at least until he's able to kind of clear out the north side. I think a lot of the work that Killa did earlier this match, taking out that garrison in the north, was huge to enabling that to happen. But Steve is back on the case here, just kind of working this closer flank and stopping HLLE from getting too much going on.
Definitely, and from seeing from Steve as well too, when he's flickering in and out of his map, it doesn't seem like Seventh has a big presence as far as pushing the RKA battery anymore. It seems like they kind of settled in to try to hold HLLE right in front of them. Especially with these last couple minutes left, they got to do what they can to protect what they have, but I feel like they still need to put some pressure on there just to alleviate, the defensive pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think right now, as far as map control is concerned, we're seeing Seven still have a pretty good hold on the point. Their garrison network is great, but I'm not quite able to see if they have anything on the point. HLLE Elite is definitely starting to get to where we said earlier, where they're having a little bit more control. Killa's moved his OP up to this next grouping of houses, and I think you'll see him start to swap from the more offense-defense to more on the offensive side of that.
Yep, and we're approaching the 24-minute mark at the moment, and definitely, like you said, I mean, in order to get this third point, they need to start doing something now. At least establishing certain areas and certain attack routes and planning for a future attack on Chapel.
Yeah, I think we'll stick with looks like Lambda is back on is in infantry just to the north here, out of his tank for some reason. I think he's just trying to get some relief onto the point. He's an extremely good infantry player, so this is around where Killa's squad is.
Yep, and this is a good example of players being able to do multiple roles and switching to certain things when needed. Obviously, it's good for any team to have a couple players who are kind of like Swiss Army knives as far as doing, certain roles and switching to any role in general too. Being able to be a multi-role player in, HLLE comp is, definitely a win for any team.
We saw we saw Cap C do that. The MVP is crowned by Razbora last week. He was all over the place, not only just switching roles, but switching squads to be at the OP that's most relevant. I think that's a powerful thing that you're seeing you know, at least I didn't see much last season, but I think you're seeing more teams implement some level of squad switching, which is something that's existed on the PC comp scene for some time now.
Definitely. Just makes your team an overall better team if you can recognize where certain enemy presence, is, and then obviously where you need to put certain pressure on the enemy. So being able to swap between squads is definitely something that's going to help, these teams hopefully either capture or defend the point.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, I think what we're seeing here now is Burger in his tank, very close, or pushing into the point, supporting some of HLLE Elite's infantry, just shelling the church. And let's stick with Burger here and see what he's up to.
Yeah, now he's on this, I believe it's the south side. And he actually just got taken out.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. I mean, it's going to be tough for HLLE Elite to stay on that push without that tank there, just kind of making them uncomfortable. But back here at Steve, who's putting on an incredible game. I think I saw he has 108 kills already. So he is his pace right now is unbelievable, and he is holding down this sector a lot closer to the point now than he was earlier. But is maintaining his effectiveness. I'm sure believing 3 quick kills, really clean.
Yep. And like I said, being a good gunfighter has its dividends for sure.
Yeah, and I'm worried about his outpost there getting taken out by Thompson from fairly close range. Both tankers are out of the combat for right now, at least. Burger's working on getting another tank, and Lambda and his crew are hopping on Artie. Speaking of doing a little of everything, goes from the tank to infantry to Artie, just maximizing the time between tanks. Back here with Steve now, close to the point, 2-1. 2/7 on the chapel, but HLLE Elite getting closer, using the smoke to push straight from the east.
And I believe I just saw for a split second that the HLLE's point at AA battery was going contested a little bit, so there might be some more presence coming from 7th at the moment.
Yep, and I'm not sure how much of that is 7th pushing the point. Looking at the maps, it doesn't look like a ton of pressure over there. It more just looks like HLLE kind of committing to an attack here and losing out on some of the manpower back there. But this pressure by the 7th is gonna force some of those HLLE infantrymen to head back.
Definitely. Like I said, it's a gamble every time you try to, commit more forces to the attack than you do to the defense. But, hopefully it'll pay out for either one of the teams, because it looks like this point right here at AA battery is definitely getting contested.
Yeah, the artillery from the HLLE might be back up, or this might just be Lambda doing some danger close artillery.
Doesn't matter if we cap.
Like I said, the HLLE is kind of just pushing from straight east. I think the house that Steve saw earlier that they were all pushing from is probably an outpost, but HLLE's push is becoming a bit more aggressive now.
Yeah, and right here at the 19-minute mark, it's pretty crucial. It's either HLLE fully commits to an attack, or they risk losing, AA battery at the moment, which they currently are. So I wonder how much of their team is actually in position to take Chapel at the moment.
Yeah, I think HLLE is definitely feeling a little bit of the pressure. You see that that time on the scoreboard, 18 minutes. You start to think about there's not much time left, but I think if we swap to Killa here, he's doing some work on the defense. Really, again, I don't think it's a huge offensive by 7th, but just enough men in the relevant sector to put a little bit of pressure on them and make them realize that they still need to ensure that they're keeping their defense strong.
Definitely, and obviously, they're doing what they can to at least keep the 7th's attack on AA battery, at bay at the moment. But obviously, it's a good push that's coming from the 7th, because Killa just went down at the moment.
Yeah, we'll go back to Steve here. Update on the tanks. It looks like Lambda is pushing back out in his crew with a Panther coming out of the northern HQ. And then we have Burger, who is on the defensive point as they're losing it. Let's actually swap over to Burger really quick. He's on the defensive point at AA, just trying to keep 7th from getting too much pressure, but he himself is under quite a bit.
Yeah, he seems to have some damage to him, and he looks like he just got taken out, and unfortunate for him, losing that point, it's really a big, what am I looking for? It's a really hurtful play, losing your tank, especially when you're trying to defend the point.
Especially while you're losing the point too. It's not like they were starting to cap it back when they lost it. Now it's going to really fall on the infantry to kind of clear these guys out, and it looks to be 1-1 on the strong point. Killa doing some work here, clearing out each and every barn. I figure there's probably 2 OP somewhere over here that he's got to work on, but tons of MG fire to wade through.
Yeah.
Definitely, and there are a few sneaky points you can get to. 7th wise, pushing into the point from the south and the southeast. Not the way that Steve was taken originally, but a little bit more to the front, left side of the point if you're looking at HLLE's view. But there's definitely certain ways you can get in there, and obviously the 7th just demonstrated that they're able to get into the point without coming from either the far south side or the very front of it to the west.
So if we could just take a very, very quick look at the strat sketch here, I just want to point something out that I saw quickly on HLLE's map. It looks like they have a garrison set up right over here on the edge of the line. So if 7th isn't able to find that out and spy it, it gives HLLE a great way to kind of sneak in from an unexpected angle. So I'm interested to see if that ends up playing out, if that spawn stays relevant. But for now, it's open. So let's check back in with Steve now. I just wanted to point that out really quickly for anyone who might be interested in to see what HLLE is working on as far as an attack. Now that we're at 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I feel like that location that you pinged on the map and where they actually have a garrison is not a very common place for a garrison. You would have to definitely watch out for enemy armor pushing up if they're coming from the center HQ, but it's definitely in a more open area, so where potentially you can either get rocket sniped or have a tank roll up on you and just completely destroy you guys.
Yeah, and I think while we're mentioning armor, it's like Lambda I think is kind of getting a little bit closer to the point. I think this will probably be their last time using a tank. I don't think they'll be able to get another one up in time, but I'm sure they'll start to play this defensively. Killa himself is playing defensively on AA battery. They have another tank up there, but he's taking shots.
Yeah, and as you can tell right now from Killa's feed, it's definitely a push-pull right now because it's going from defending to contested really quickly. So they're definitely putting some pressure on AA network or battery at the moment.
2-2 on the strong point. Multiples pushing in from the north side there. I think we're seeing what we talked about earlier, where 7th was able to kind of cross that no man's land, get those OPs up, and now the pressure is really on. Not sure HLLE has a garrison that's more centrally on the point, so they're kind of forced to push from that north side. So Killa's doing a great job here. Trying to get a garrison up, but he's just too close to that one in the north. Trying to space it out in the heat of battle here.
Yeah, and going to that instance right there is trying to put a garrison on point. You got to be very aware of where you put garrisons, pre-planning garrisons as well too. I mean, you can really mess up a point and lose a point if you don't have good garrisons established around the point. I know there's different formations that multiple teams use, but definitely having a spawn on point helps. But having spawns around the point to flood guys into is just very crucial for both sides.
76 a short.
Yeah, Lambda over here sees the 76, takes it out. Huge win for the 7th there. Like you mentioned, this
push.
the garrison planning. I think Killa might have asked the commander to remove that garrison so he could have placed a more central one and then dies at the same time. So a little bit of a scramble to get something back up on the point here. Looks like they have done that already, but definitely it's a bit of an anxiety here by HLLE, seeing the whole season come down to these final 12 minutes here.
Yeah, and it looks like the 7th are making their presence felt for sure in the front of a battery, as you can see from Lambda. He's got a good overview of the actual strong point. And, you know, him being cautious, he probably knows that there could be a tank, you know, potentially on the left-hand side coming from the beach, or something further on the right side, you know, coming from behind those buildings. So he's also got to play it a little cautiously.
Yeah, I think he's trying to. He senses a little bit of blood in the water on AA battery, and in these last 11 minutes here, I think he views himself as being extremely valuable in taking out this tank, which I think is Burger. So a little bit of a tank duel here between Lambda and Burger. Lambda's got his sight on him, but blocked by some barbed wire.
And to me, it looks like that from both point of views that, yep, they're definitely whoever gets that first shot off.
Yep,
and I believe Burger just got the first shot off.
Burger hits him first.
Yep, so this is going to be a duel for Lambda, and he might be dead at the moment.
Yep.
Yep.
And Lambda goes down. Huge win for Burger, basically keeping his team alive here. If Lambda's able to take out their heavy and push on to the point with his infantry, I don't know if HLLE is going to be able to hang on here. But even even with that being the case, they're still struggling here. Killa getting killed off the point. Burger pushing up with the HLLE defenders. This is a moment where they kind of have to be all hands on deck, but not lose sight of the fact that they only have 10 minutes to flip this. And really, it's only 8 minutes with Warfare. There's no overtime for those who might not be aware. So really, a Warfare match is an hour and 28 minutes. If you've not initiated cap progress before that time on middle point, you're not going to have enough time to capture it. So that's good advice for anyone who might be, planning an attack in these final stages.
Yep, it's always a nail biter with 3 minutes left, because you're constantly looking at your defending point to see if, hey, maybe they got an airhead or, a full send garrison off behind us. It's just a nail biter to the very end.
Yeah, and I don't know if HLLE has a ton that they're able to kind of push off of on the offensive. It looks like just a couple OPs. That garrison that they had in the red zone looks to have gone down. And I think 7th is going to be content to leave whoever's attacking on the attack right now and have everyone else kind of stay on the defensive.
Yeah, and looking at Killa's map at the moment, it seems like there's only a few guys on Chapel from HLLE, so doesn't seem like there's a big push coming from them at the moment, but they just might be committed as far as on defense, just trying to keep the 7th at bay until they maybe start getting some sort of cap pressure, and then they might just do a full send. But we got a couple minutes to find out.
Yeah, Burger does a great job there of keeping himself clean and getting the point uncontested from the 7th. And I guess we can join back in with Steve here, who is on the point, just making sure that there's not too much going on. Lambda and his crew, as we suspected, swapped over to infantry now at this point, not going to be able to get a tank up in this amount of time. So,
I need HE.
even more infantry to come reinforce the point, but HLLE is pushing the northern gully, but still 3-1 on the point for the 7th. So plenty of room.
Definitely, and yeah, as you mentioned, Lambda switching over to defense, because there's not enough time to get a tank from mid HQ to Chapel. Like I said, just being able to do multiple roles is very crucial for your team, and obviously, the 7th have multiple people who can do that. So, kudos to them for being able to do so much.
Yeah, we could, we're looking here at Lambda's perspective, kind of like I was talking about earlier, just in these reads, HLLE throwing tons of grenades, tons of smoke, but it's going to be tough to get with that amount of cover. It's really just concealment. up there. So really, we're in the last now 8 minutes. Only a few minutes here for HLE to do anything on the offensive. Lambda takes out an OP, huge at this point. Sends them back to the garrison.
Yeah, and that's a punch in the gut per se for the HLLE, obviously trying to push up from that Hill 5 location. And like I said, I mean, unless you have a superior number of forces, it's definitely tough to take Chapel from Hill 5's location.
Yeah, it's a lot of open fields over there, but now it looks like Lambda goes down and Steve is picking up the mantle in the same sort of area, just the parallel, I guess, hedge line, fence line from him. But looks like you said, most of HLLE's push is just coming from that closest area at that house by Hill 5. So I think we've all seen at this point in the map, you're just going to try to take what you can get. And if the best you can get is a full-on, full front, frontal assault, then, that's what you have to do.
Definitely. And, compared to last season's finale on Purple Heart Lane, this one's been a little bit slower paced, I feel like. Definitely the 7th taking their time and not risking too much in order to, 5-0 HLLE.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just the map. That's just how it goes. Like 7th's armor has struggled this match a lot more than they did on Purple Heart Lane, and it looks like HLLE is getting some pressure on the Chapel. It's on the very edge here of contesting and defending. Burger Bridge's tank is pushing onto the point. Let's take a look here. He gets the outpost on the point, putting some pressure on it. He has some friendlies inside the church that he's supporting. They are capturing the midpoint with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, but they're also losing their second point as well too. So we got to see how well they actually hold the second point. So they might be able to pull off a mid-cap overcome here.
Yeah, and they are getting the defense on at AA. So it's oh man, this is getting intense here. 2-1 on the strong point.
So at this moment,
3-2,
at this moment, if you got almost a quarter of the way capped on Chapel, would you almost full send it?
I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, this is the last 5 minutes. You have to get something going here. Burger's doing everything he can. I think this tank is critical. They get bombing run as well. Oh wow, this is getting intense.
This is coming down to the last 3 minutes of the match. Oh, and we just saw that the middle point just went contested for a little bit.
7th with the defense on. We're going back and forth at half cap with 4.5 minutes remaining about. Like we said, it's going to take 2 minutes to cap. So if we stay at half cap, it's only going to take a minute. So 7th needs to get their forces back onto the point. They need to start getting HLLE, dislodged there if they're going to be able to prevent a shocker here in the finals.
Definitely. And it looks like the 7th has full committed on defense, which is obviously a smart strategy. But yeah, I mean, they're doing what they can to weed out the full force of HLLE at the moment.
And as long as Burger Bridge is here causing this chaos that he is, it's going to be tough for 7 to really fully wipe them out. But Steve and Lambda, the full force of the 7th, are converging on the point. HLLE is pushing onto the point. Burger goes down here. We'll join in with Lambda really quick and see what he's doing on the point. 7th full regain of the point control with a minute or 3.5 minutes remaining. So just at 1.5 minutes for the 7th, as long as they're able to maintain control here.
Yeah, and obviously that was a nail biter for least a few minutes. Obviously sitting there and 7th establishing control again on midpoint is just so crucial.
Yeah, and we'll go back to Steve. He's the only one alive out of our stream crew here today, and like you said, man, that's super intense when it gets down to that, and that's what I love about Hell Let Loose. This game could seem like it's in hand, it seemed like it's decided. for an hour and 25 minutes, but if you're not able to play that full 90 minutes and execute, you're gonna
We're gonna work our way to the blue
going
line and
home
clear blue ones.
with a loss. So 7th regains control. 2.5 minutes left, just a minute and a half here for the 7th to secure the
Why? What the fuck?
back-to-back championship.
Yeah, and good effort by HLLE on that last push, though. I mean, obviously it's very, very hard to take a point, especially against the 7th. So I'm pretty sure the 7th were at least, almost, filling their pants up with crap. I would have been at that point too. I mean, you potentially could have lost a back-to-back championship, but they did what they could and they held pretty strong.
Yeah, and HLLE putting on some insane pressure that seems like it came out of nowhere. I mean, just by sheer manpower, I think pushing that Eastern assault and getting people and getting smoke out there really helped them kind of at least force the 7 to lean forward in their gaming chairs and lock it down here for the last minute and a half. So just some really, really incredible work as we approach just 30 seconds left. Or I guess the match is now fully concluded as we're sub 2 minutes here. But I mean, really amazing work by the 7th.
Yeah,
going to back-to-back champions. It's a lot of good teams that you need to
I'm
beat
not even
between
playing anymore. I'm just running around.
the first and the second. So awesome work by them. Very much deserved. And they earn all the bragging rights that they have earned.
Definitely, and obviously we got to give it up for HLLE too. Being able to put a slug match against the 7th. There's a few teams that can do it, but there's not many that can at least go toe to toe with the 7th. Obviously, since the 7th is so dominant, but obviously every team in HLLE, including KRC and obviously first with us. Everybody's trying to strive to get to that point where you can go toe to toe with the 7th. Yeah. So it's hopefully season 3 is going to be a little more exciting down the road.
Yeah, I think when you establish yourself as the dominant team, as 7th has done so last season, and continues to do so this season, you create a target on your back, but that's not slowed down them one bit. This season and continues to dominate the league. So congratulations to the 7th. Awesome work by HLLE. We really had a great match here today. I mean, full 90s and TPL are rare to come by, but they are fantastic. And I'm excited here as we approach the end of the match to be joined by both commanders, one from the HLLE and General Kriegis from the 7th. So while the match concludes here, and again, congratulations to the 7th, back-to-back TPL champions. We will wait for them to join with us as we wrap things up here. And, in the meantime, Cap Guns, I mean, what are some of your takeaways from the match? What are some things that you saw occurring throughout the match that really brought it to this conclusion?
It's definitely sector control from the 7th that obviously gave them the victory, and obviously good gunplay. You saw from Steve having over 100 kills and Lambda and everything like that. It's just having good position on the enemy and obviously keeping your sectors clear. And if you can do that, you can definitely establish dominance over a team. But we saw in the last few minutes that they didn't have, great dominance because obviously HLLE came back with a full force attack on the 7th defense. So it really, it shows you that, just teamwork as far as defending and attacking is just crucial, and communication is a big factor of that.
Yeah, and these teams are really at the top of their game. They're playing at the pinnacle of Hell Let Loose, at least on console. So, we saw players like Steve and Killa, Lambda, and Burger really showcase what Hell Let Loose, competitive console is really about. So, awesome work by these teams here. And we're actually joined now by one. Is it one or first?
One.
One. We're joined by One, who is Hell Let Loose Elite's commander. So, firstly, One, amazing job this match. It was a real slugfest between these two teams, and we were sweating it out here, me and Cap Guns, that last 5 minutes there. So I guess we can start there. What are that last 5 minutes there? You obviously get it to half Cap on middle. What was the vibe in command chat? What was the plan there?
Well, we're just trying to keep that pressure up as long as we could, really. It's tough game. GG's to 7th. I think they deserved that off that performance. Real tough one to take, really. Thought we had them there for a second, but I think they just got a mass respawn off and just enough people on point. I think they did get a little friendly bombing run on it, and it just took that momentum away from us just at that last second. Bit gutted, but best game of the season, I think. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That was one of the best games of the season. Full 90 minutes, ending in 3-2. So this is obviously a rematch of last season's championship match. What were some differences? I'm not sure if you were in that match from last season, but I'm sure it was a talking point going into the match today. What were some of the things that you guys were focusing on to change the outcome from last season?
I think this time around, we're just trying to take a bit more control of the territory around the strong point. We did. I think we didn't quite grasp the south side of the point when we did hold mid, which ended up costing us quite dearly, really. But compared to last year, I think that's a way better performance than we have done in the previous game. So proud of the boys for that, really.
Yeah, and it was an amazing match to watch. I think the your guys' armor really played a huge part in making it a different story from last season. Obviously, last season we had Purple Heart Lane, and this time we have Utah. But I think Berger, we watched him all game, and he put in some serious work, kind of neutralizing a lot of Seven's armor. So I think that really made a big difference from last season. But with taking on 7th, other than the fact that, you guys had played last season, what other sort of things were you thinking going into this match that were critical to you guys? Obviously map control, but was there anything else that kind of jumped out on paper?
Well, one of the main things was what you just touched on, which was the armor. Last time we played them, they dominated us, basically. This time around, I think it's the other way around. It's just a shame. I think it just came just a bit too late in the game. We had a good push going, and then I think one of the mediums went down just towards the end, which sort of stalled the momentum, really. But I think the armor guys did really well that game. I think they definitely outplayed the 7th armor. It's just a shame it just came just a little bit too late in the game, I think. But happy with it, really. But
Yeah, and obviously, this concludes season 2 of the People's League. But looking ahead to season 3, it's only a couple months here in the off season. What are some things that maybe the boys in the HLLE are focusing on going into next season?
It's a tough one to say. I think we're close. We're probably just executing it a little bit better. Just getting the timings right. There was a little mistake towards the start with the nodes, which potentially might cost us something. But no, it's season 3's looking to be a banger. Really, it's Merc have come leaps and bounds this year. Berserk, fair play to them. They come out of nowhere, really. Season 3 looks like it could be quite hotly contested, I reckon. But
yeah. 100% agreed on that one. Cap Guns, do you have anything else for One here?
Yeah, just what was your overall strategy once you guys capped the midpoint of Chapel? Were you guys trying to push, at least towards their 4th point, or I should say their 2nd point?
The aim really was to try and establish ourselves to the west and to the south of midpoint, to just try and get a grip on that map, really. But I don't think we quite got enough pressure on 4th to I think we let them control the map a bit too much, coming off that capital mid. But well, though there's room for improvement clearly. Otherwise, we would have won. But yeah, I'd say the main aim was to try and push southwest off of Chapel, really, and to just try and push them back and force them to defend. But it just didn't quite work out that way in the end.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't. But you guys did hold it for a good bit of time, and obviously, like you said, trying to establish yourself on Chapel, and then having that open area in front of you towards the southwest is just a tall task to defend, especially against the 7th.
Yes, yeah, no, they just crawl out of nowhere. It's you kill one, and there's another 2 waiting for you, around the corner. So it's what they're known for, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on here. One, it was a great season by you and all the boys in HLLE. So thanks for putting on an incredible match for everyone to watch here, and for jumping in here for a little bit of post-match debrief. So again, thank you very much for joining, and best of luck in season 3. I'm sure we're all looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for your work as well, the TPL cast and all that. Big fan, guys. So
thanks, Juan. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the show. Appreciate it.
Alrighty. So we'll wait for General Krieges from the 7th, who is commanding, to be joining in just a little bit here. But in the meantime, I just want to take a moment here to plug the message that you'll see all pinned in the stream here, where it is the charity drive that Rasbora and Fresh Baked Goods are running. It's going to be running all through December and supporting cancer. So please, if you're able to donate, it's a great cause, and it goes to for a good reason. So with that said, we're now joined by General Krieges, who is 7th's commander this match. First off, congratulations, 7th, back-to-back champions. How's that feel? How is the vibes of the match? What's going on?
Well, I can easily say that's probably the best game I've ever had in Hell Let Loose. So I'm definitely glad the finals ended that way. It was a good one for sure. Armor was a little aggressive, but aside from that, pretty much everything went as planned. Gary's went back up. Defense went well. Collapsed pretty good on that last push too. I bet they were excited for a minute.
Yeah, we were just talking to one HLLE's commander, and we were asking about that. It just it seems like that armor push by the heavy that made its way onto the point was just a little bit too late, and you guys were able to just rally to the point, very effectively to put an end to that. So, obviously this is a rematch of last season's finals. So what was the thought process by you guys going into the match, with a familiar opponent who is no doubt gunning for you guys and trying to win some of that bragging rights back?
I don't know. I was really more focused on this 7th versus 7th we're trying to set up.
Always looking ahead.
Oh yeah. Always the future. I don't know. Same game plan as always. Don't underestimate them. And I think that's why we ended up pulling it off again.
Yeah, and I think this match, you mentioned it about their armor being aggressive, and it seems like from last season being Purple Heart Lane to this season of having Utah, obviously a different vibe entirely when it comes to the armor play. So I think that might have been a big difference between the 5-0 that we had last season and the 3-2 that we had here today. But you guys lost the midpoint to start the match and were able to win it back again, similar to last season. So when you lose the midpoint right away on this sort of map, what's the game plan in the commander's chair for you?
Well, for the most part, just getting those blue line garrisons up and getting guys on the point. All my guys are probably better shooters than everyone else, so not really worried about them stacking bodies. Just got to get them there.
Yeah, and it's all about just supporting your team, and I multiple well-timed bombing runs by you to kind of support the infantry, keeping them off the point. But we got to watch a lot of Lambda and Steve today. Steve put on an absolute clinic. I think it ended up being around 120 kills from what I was able to spy. So like, what's it mean to you having players like Lambda and Steve on the team? Like, what does that do for you guys, and how does that set you guys apart?
I think the confidence factor is a huge thing. I mean, I can look at anyone and know that they'll stack a whole squad if they get put up against one by themselves. So I don't know. I'm not usually too stressed about that either.
Yeah, I think
definitely the confidence edge, though, I'd say.
Definitely makes your job a lot easier, huh?
Oh, yeah, I just got to place garrisons and then sit there and watch the magic happen.
Definitely.
With looking ahead to season 3 now, obviously you have a 2-time championship to defend. What's the mentality by the team? Don't change anything. It's working, or we need to kind of maybe adjust because people are wise to what we're doing.
No, I mean, we improve a little bit after every single game. I mean, even 3-2s, we sit there and talk about it like we lost. So, I mean, it just tells you something about the team itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. Might find something to spice it up a little bit next season. Throw all 50 on defense or some shit and let everyone run into a meat grinder.
I'd love to see that. As so if you ever plan on doing that, give me a shout. We'll get the cast on it. But Cap Guns, did you have anything for Krieg before we send him off to celebrate?
For attacking their the 4th point, I mean, were you guys ever going to try to? I mean, obviously the 7th is notorious for 5-0ing teams at certain point. Were you guys ever going to try to go for that, or were you guys just trying to establish Chapel and just keep a hold of that for the entire game?
With pushing on that point and the situation the Armor was in too, I think it was best just to keep pressure on it. So not get too hungry for the 5-0. We do get a little bit overzealous at times, but no, I mean, we know HLLE is a solid team, and I refuse to let them have the title, so did what we had to.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it seemed like you guys definitely, at least, armor-wise,
There's a pressure to defense balance that needs to be maintained, and that was, I'd say, the key on that.
Yeah, now when you guys are attacking, are you guys just trying to keep the enemy in front of you guys? I mean, obviously, with HLLE in general, there's going to be people who sneak around here and there. But I mean, for you guys, are you guys just always trying to keep the fight in front of you, or how's that going?
It's kind of more of a distraction factor, I'd say. I mean, like with artillery and whatnot, the more people we can dedicate from their team, taking out shit that isn't the point, the easier it makes it for us. Same with offense.
Smart.
Kind of my thought process on that side.
Well, thanks for joining us here, Krieg. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm sure there's a celebration in a VC within the 7th Discord now. So I appreciate you taking the time. and congratulations again to you and all the boys in 7th for your back-to-back championship.
Yep. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Yep. Take it easy.
So with that, Cap Guns, Iowa, we're at the end of season 2 of the People's League. As we wrap up here, any final closing notes about the match, about the season? Floor is you guys'.
Iowa, I don't know if you want to go ahead and start it off. Yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, from my aspect, it just seems like overall, from season 1 to season 2, it seems like every team has just improved. And obviously, these two teams are just trying to keep improving. Obviously, like, the 7th just said, they're going to do what they can to, find out certain things, obviously with their armor play, because they did get a little overmatched, but they still won them, at the end of the day. But, there's always room to improve, especially, on a 3-2 victory or a 5-0 victory. There's always room, and I feel like, every team has to learn from, those wins and losses and, try to be more aggressive here or, be a little more defensive there. There's just so many factors that can go into these matches, and everybody's going to continuously learn and try to add new players and strengthen each individual team to give the 7th and HLLE run for their money. So
yeah, I definitely think looking ahead into the next season, we're gonna the competition is always going to get better, and these teams that are on top are always going to be looking for ways to get better. So again, I just want to say big congratulations to the 7th Legion, back-to-back TPL champions. Again, big congratulations as well to HLLE, second place in the league, and putting on an amazing match for us all here today. So again, I just want to plug the charity drive that you see in the pinned comments on the stream. Again, it's as we approach the holidays and the giving season, if you're able to, it'd be great if you could contribute there. Thanks to Iowa on the production side, huge help, great job. We appreciate everything you do. To our streamers, Tactical Steve, Lambda, Killa, and Burger, amazing match, great perspectives and awesome work today. And Cap Guns, thank you so much for joining me. It's great having you, and I look forward to even more streams next season and more great Hell Let Loose clan matches.
Yeah, appreciate everybody's work here at TPL. Everybody from the top down. You, Caparzo, and Iowa, obviously, are a big part of this, and everybody should say a little thank you to you guys for chipping in for everything that you guys do for the league. So appreciate it. Appreciate being here on the Shoutcast, and congratulations to both teams, and obviously the 7th.
Yeah, congrats again to the 7th, and thank you to everyone who tuned in. Wouldn't be possible without everyone watching, and we appreciate you watching and commenting, and it's great to see. So if you have any suggestions for next season, ways that we can make this better, obviously we're pretty limited on the console side, but always interested into hearing what you have to say. And if you're not in a clan and you play Hell Let Loose on console, and this looks interesting to you, check out the People's League Discord. It's on the Twitch page, and it'd be great to have you for some community events. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. This is Caparzo with the People's League stream, and we'll see you in the next season.